Thanks to everyone who has joined us today. My name is Erin Moat. I'm the CEO of Innovate EDU, the organization that leads the Pathways Alliance. And today, I hope you're here for the right webinar. This is using Department of Labor funding opportunities to support registered apprenticeship programs for teachers. I'm so pleased to have you joining us today. And for those of you who are watching this recording, we're so pleased to have put this webinar on today with our dear colleagues who are here to offer some support and knowledge that is coming from the U.S. Department of Education. With that, let me introduce my colleagues, Luke Ryan and Maureen Tracy Mooney. Mo.
Thanks so much, Erin, and huge thanks to the Pathways Alliance for hosting this conversation today. We're so excited to join. Before we dive in, I just wanted to clarify a few things. So we are so excited about these funding opportunities from the Department of Labor. Of course, want to be crystal clear that we are from the U.S. Department of Education. The Department of Education has no role in evaluating or awarding the grants, and it's really important that you consult the DOL webinar and specific resources from the Department of Labor as you're exploring the opportunity, as you're drafting your applications. The department doesn't have any authority to give instructions on applying. So our role today is really framing up why we're excited about these opportunities. Our colleagues at the Pathways Alliance are going to be walking through them. But we're very excited to have you all on today and to share a little bit about more about why the administration is so excited about registered apprenticeships and teaching and these new opportunities.
Thanks, Mo. So the Pathways Alliance, who is the host of today's webinar, is really an uncommon alliance that brings together organizations across the country to focus on developing quality educator pipelines into the teaching profession through teacher residencies and apprenticeship programs. We're so pleased to co-host this alliance with the Learning Policy Institute, and we're delighted to add to the resources today for the sector around these particular funding opportunities. It's really important that we ground ourselves first in what are we talking about when we talk about a RAP. So you're going to hear this abbreviation throughout today's webinar, and our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor have defined a RAP as a registered apprenticeship program as an industry-driven, high-quality career pathway where employers can develop and prepare their future workforce and individuals can obtain a paid work experience, receive progressive wage increases, classroom instruction, and a portable, nationally recognized credential. There's some components of a RAP that are important for us to level set on today. All apprenticeships, must have a paid job and earn a progressively increasing wage. You're going to hear us talk about wage progression many times through today's webinar, and it's important for you to understand this key term. Programs need to provide structured on-the-job mentorship from an experienced mentor. Apprentices must receive supplemental instruction in the classroom that builds on their on-the-job training. Apprentices must receive a portable, nationally recognized credential, such as a teaching license, and programs are designed to meet the needs of individuals in the communities in which they operate and support workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion. Today, we're here to talk about the Apprenticeship Building America, or the ABA-2 grant program. This is a Department of Labor program that will award grants to continue to expand and diversify the RAP system through support for public-private partnerships designed to serve a range of industries and individuals and promote RAPs as a workforce development solution that translates training into good jobs. There are three categories of these grants. You're going to hear us talk a little bit later on around these three categories. But for today's webinar, category 1 is ensuring equitable RAP pathways and partnerships through pre-apprenticeships leading to RAP enrollment. Category 2 is the creation of education system aligned pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship programs. And finally, category 3 is around registered apprenticeship hubs. And this is about ensuring that funding supports the administration's goals to modernize and strengthen a national apprenticeship system. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues at the department to talk a little bit about how we ended up here and what these opportunities mean as part of that comprehensive strategy. Mo, Luke?
Thanks so much, Erin. So again, I'm Mo Tracy Mooney. I'm a senior advisor in the Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development at the U.S. Department of Education, and just want to frame up sort of where we are in this journey. So at the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, there were 0 states with registered apprenticeship programs for teachers. In August of 22, First Lady Jill Biden brought together leaders from the Department of Labor, from the Department of Education, the Domestic Policy Council, as well as leaders of these key national organizations to talk about how we can work together to eliminate educator shortages. And the Department of Labor Secretary and our secretary here at Education issued a Dear Colleague letter calling on all states to establish a registered apprenticeship program for teachers. We're excited about this pathway because of its focus on robust clinical experience, because of its affordability, breaking down barriers, and really providing opportunities for folks to become a teacher that did not have that opportunity before because they couldn't afford it. And how these programs can be used to scale really high quality evidence-based programs such as residency programs. So that's just about a little bit where we're coming from. We're very excited that we now have registered apprenticeship programs approved in 33 states and Puerto Rico. So we've certainly come a long way. Next slide. So as you're thinking about these Department of Labor funding opportunities, of course, it's going to be important to consider what other resources that you have to draw on. ARP-ESSER has been contributed to a lot of the work that's going on in the field right now around registered apprenticeship programs for teachers. Of course, those funds are winding down. Title I Part A formula funds can also be used to support these programs. Title II Part A formula funds, as well as career and technical education's Perkins State grants. In addition to those funding resources, the department has put forward and supported a range of resources that can be used to help you think about this. So, of course, how you can use your ESSER funds, a Dear Colleague letter that I mentioned before from the Secretaries of Labor and Education, really walking through how these programs can be supported and the benefits of them. There's a fact sheet on sustaining investments in teachers beyond the American Rescue Plan, a funding guide for supporting these programs, federal and state funds, that was put together by the Cedar Center, which is a ed-funded CA center, along with AIR and the Center for Great Teachers and Leaders. Our website, which I encourage you to all go to if you haven't before, specifically on our work to eliminate educator shortages, is listed here at the bottom. And then, of course, we have our guidance, our Octave program memorandum on using CTE Perkins 5 funds to address CTE and other educator shortages, which really digs into how those dollars can support these strategies in really high impact ways. And with that, I want to hand it over to my colleague, Luke Bryan.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. As Mo said, my name is Luke Bryan. I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. Just Mo, quick, wonderful thank you, and appreciate the handoff. Erin, thank you for hosting today's webinar and your work to support states and communities across the country. I'm so excited to support each and every one of you in terms of your support and alignment of education and registered apprenticeship. There is tremendous opportunity that folks are leading across communities and states in terms of grow your own, teacher residency, career and technical education, all types of things in which individuals can build from and ensure that education meaningfully aligns with registered apprenticeship and their opportunities to scale registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs in our industry. In terms of our time today, I'm going to talk about two things. So the first is I'll build off of Mo's comments around our Raise the Bar strategy, and we'll talk about both educator shortages and unlocking career success. And then we'll talk about the alignment of career and technical education and adult education with pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship. So under the ED's Raise the Bar strategy, there are two areas that really kind of focus on our workforce. So as Mo mentioned, our educator shortage work, as well as our work around unlocking career success. Through unlocking career success, we're really hoping to re-envision high school, to blur the line between K-12, higher education, and the workforce. And there are four key policy levers that we're working to support states and local recipients to essentially scale. So the first is dual enrollment, both in academic and technical areas and courses. The second is work-based learning, so ensuring that young people have the opportunity to learn both in the classroom and on the job. The third is the integration of industry credentials within our K-12 framework, so making sure that young people have a marker of skill that they can use with employers in terms of their transition into the workforce, as well as their transition into higher education. And then the fourth area is making sure that every young person has the support and guidance that they need in terms of their career and education goals. So through these areas, we're really focused on kind of a bunch of supports for states that include regional convenings, direct work with states and communities, as well as grants and toolkits that directly support implementation. And these four policy areas align very well to the Department of Labor's guidance on pre-apprenticeship. So there was a recent 10, which stands for a Training and Employment Notice, where the Department of Labor talks about the 5 high-quality principles that exist in their pre-apprenticeship program. So the first is partnerships that support registered apprenticeship sponsors. So again, this is how labor is thinking about how K-12, higher education, workforce leaders, state and local workforce boards can work together to support pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship systems. The second is sustainability through that partnership, which aligns with Mo's earlier comments about thinking about braiding and blending funding in terms of how we support our education and workforce partnerships and efforts. The third is meaningful training and workplace experiences. So as I mentioned, really making sure that that on-the-job training, as well as that related training and instruction, align and create concurrent and opportunities for youth and adults to develop skills both in the classroom and in the workplace. The fourth is around career navigation and support services. So making sure that adults and youth who participate in pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship have the support that they need to be effective, as well as relationships with support services to facilitate and reduce barriers to transition. And then the last pieces are really as DEIA as a core tenet of the pre-apprenticeship system. So we're really excited about the policy alignment between the offices of Ed and Labor, and then opportunities to directly connect CTE and adult education within the pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship space. So as many of you know, through career and technical education, it is a structured program that aligns both secondary and post-secondary coursework. Many folks have used CTE and Perkins funds to support grow your own efforts that directly help to prepare young people to enter the industry of education and teaching careers, which is really exciting. But this is yet another way that you can continue to braid or blend funds that support credentials, that support work-based learning, and that support dual or concurrent enrollment for young people to enter the education as their potential career. And then with adult education, what I really wanted to highlight was really just 2 key things. So the first is the expansion of integrated education and training programs, which really help to support adult learners to blend their academic and technical needs with high quality workforce training, which very much aligns and supports pre-apprenticeship programs. And one of the things I would love to see in terms of how folks are thinking about registered apprenticeship and education is I'd love to see ideas around how registered apprenticeship can support both our adult education population as well as our K-12 education population. So excited about the work, excited about this effort. And Erin, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. I think Octay has some incredible resources for folks to look at as they're thinking about pre-apprenticeship programs and these links between this workforce stream. So thank you so much, and really would direct folks. We're going to have some show notes, if you will, after this, and some links that we share for folks that have registered. We'll include some of those resources that the Deputy Assistant Secretary shared during his remarks. Thank you so much. Let's talk about the current labor opportunity that's before us. Again, there are 3 categories that are within this potential grant funds. One is category 1, ensuring equitable RAP pathways and partners through pre-apprenticeship leading to RAP enrollment. Again, incredible number of resources between the Department of Ed and the Department of Labor here. These are really focused on developing and promoting public-private partnerships to advance pre-apprenticeships that lead to RAP enrollment, aiming at increasing diversity and equity in apprenticeship for underrepresented populations. Later in this webinar, we'll talk a little bit about that, this very specific words, underrepresented populations and underrepresented communities. They must lead directly to RAP enrollment during the grant period of performance. Category 2, creation of education-aligned pre-apprenticeship and RAPs. These are really focused on expanding education system aligned pre-apprenticeship programs that lead to enrollment in RAPs and education aligned RAPs for youth and adult learners. Again, Assistant Secretary mentioned CTE, adult education, and some of these systems. Please look at the wide range of different organizations and systems that are referenced within Category 2. And then the final category is registered apprenticeship hubs. I want to point out two distinctions here. One is for local, regional, and statewide focused registered apprenticeship hubs. The other is for national industry or sector focused network hubs. Each category has different eligible partners. Category 1 and 2 has eligible applicants that include cities, municipalities, workforce development system entities, state and local education agencies, educational institutions, industry groups and associations, labor and joint labor management organizations, workforce, industry, and equity intermediaries, community-based organizations, and consortia. It's a wide list of eligible partners. Category 3 has two distinctions. One, again, the type of hub, and two, the type of partner in each of those hubs. Cities, municipalities, workforce development system entities, institutions of higher education, industry groups and associations, labor and joint labor management organizations, workforce, industry, and equity intermediaries, community-based organizations, and consortia are all eligible under the local, state, and regional registered apprenticeship hubs. But labor specifies only industry groups and associations, labor unions, and joint labor management partnerships and consortia are eligible for national hubs. Let's talk about the contours of these awards. There's approximately $95 million available under the ABA 2 grant program. The Department of Labor anticipates awarding 12 to 25 grants at a range of 1 to up to 8 million. Please, in the solicitation, pay attention to the categories as well as the specific call outs for the size of the award. There are different award size caps throughout. The period of performance is 48 months, with the anticipated start date being July 1st of 2024. And you must submit your application through grants.gov by 11:59 Eastern Time on 4/15/2024. There are two really important resources, again, that we'll share in the notes. The first is the link to the award and specifications, the award solicitation and specifications. The other is a webcast, which includes a transcript. Please avail yourself of these resources as key parts of your work if you're thinking about applying to any of these opportunities. Now we're going to talk about allowable activities. Also, my team has asked me to pause and ask folks to please put their questions into the Q&A function in the chat. That enables us to be able to see what questions you might have. And also, in the event that we run out of time to answer questions, we will have the opportunity to follow up with folks. So please use the Q&A function in the webinar in order to ask any questions that you might have. Allowable activities under this work and these grants, they include 5 important things. First, they must engage underrepresented and underserved communities. They must have a wide range of services, policies, and procedures that enable these programs to effectively serve underrepresented populations and communities. We talked a little bit about how you leverage resources and what resources should be available. Grants must leverage local, state, federal, and private sector resources to increase the impacts of grant funding. Leverage resources must be described in the project budget. They should include matches, philanthropic support, or other funding streams that you're using to support your program outside of these funds. Data-informed decision-making. So, allowable activities and what they're looking for includes use of labor market information, occupational trends, any assessment data. Example data could include labor and staff trends, wage trends, educator shortage data, which we'll talk about a resource to potentially see that for your state that you could potentially use. Please note that the data requirements for the program elements are required, and you should look at reporting performance outcomes for enrolled apprenticeships. One of the most important things in thinking about this pillar is how you will connect and report the data. Policy and system alignment. Grantees must align to policies across workforce development, economic development, education, and other systems. This would include state-level certification requirements, as well as aligning to the national guideline standards, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I want to talk about some resources that are directly applicable to those allowable activities. The first is one that's already been mentioned, but the Eliminating Educator Shortages brief, which includes information and data about wage data as well as shortage data that you can use as part of your application. There's also a policy brief on eliminating educator shortages through educator diversity and addressing high need shortage areas. Please read these resources while you're looking to cite those relevant wage and resource trends. And finally, there is shortage data that's available from the U.S. Department of Education that can be a great way to bring in why the educator apprenticeship you're proposing is applicable to current wage trends or labor trends. A couple other allowable activities that we want to talk about: partnership building. So one of the important things that that the U.S. Department of Labor mentions as something that they're thinking about is that there must be partnership building throughout the application, including employers, industry associations, labor unions, intermediaries, workforce, and educational industries. You're expected to directly work with those entities and talk about that experience within the application. You must talk about industry engagement and support. So how are you demonstrating insight into industry and workforce needs? And then also how you will engage in outreach to industry partners and stakeholders, including the benefits of a registered apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship program. There are 5 cross-cutting principles from the Department of Labor. First is equity. This includes diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, or DEIA. That's another acronym that we used earlier in this webinar. And so how are you making sure that you're speaking to the inclusion of equity within your application? Job quality. This includes some of those elements that we talked about earlier: progressive wage increase, as well as job quality markers, and the good jobs principles. Support for high quality, sustainable programs. Again, the progressive wage increase, or looking at national industry recognized credentials. Research and evidence-based approaches. How are you increasing access to RAPs? What are the market demands for these RAPs? How are you thinking about innovative program delivery needs? And then finally, what new opportunities for access, innovation, and engagement? So what organizations are you engaging? How are you engaging new partners in this work or increasing access to RAPs in line with DEIA requirements? How are you thinking about removing barriers for job seekers or training barriers and thinking through improved system alignment? Before we talk about the use of the Pathways National Guideline Standards, I want to pause and ask my colleagues from the U.S. Department of Education have anything they'd like to add.
I would just pipe in to say we're really excited about this ABA opportunity because last year there was a ton of success with states applying to use their State Apprenticeship Expansion Formula funds to include supporting registered apprenticeships for teachers as one of their priorities. In previous years, only a handful of states had said that they wanted to do that with their SAFE funds. And in last year's award, 37 states said they did. So what's exciting about ABA is that now we have an opportunity for a whole host of other organizations to apply for these funds, whether that's districts or the wide range of eligible grantees that Aaron has noted, IHEs, labor organizations. And we know that so many of those entities are leading in this space. So it's exciting that there's now a DOL funding opportunity that's speaking directly to them as well. And I would also just say, before we pipe into transition to using the national guideline standards, really highly encourage you all to explore these resources. From the Department of Education standpoint, these are a really critical tool to making sure that your program's meeting what we know about high quality evidence-based programs for educator preparation. The general standards for registered apprenticeship across all sectors are that, right? They're high quality standards across all sectors. What the national guideline standards do is apply what we know from research about what high quality educator preparation looks like, and says, okay, if you're doing a teacher apprenticeship and you want it to be of the highest quality, this is how you should structure your program. So it's really providing a template for that, so you're not recreating in the wheel, and you're able to translate between the workforce and the education system. So really encourage you to take advantage of these resources.
Right. Let's talk about those national guidelines standards. And we're going to use another acronym here while talking about it, which is NGS. And when we say NGS, we're talking about the national guideline standards. The national guideline standards can answer some key questions in your proposal or model to ensure the quality K-12 educator preparation programs. And it provides a roadmap, really, for a set of competencies, progressive wage schedules, alignment with labor industry, and a host of other models to learn from. I'm going to talk about some of those resources and existing models in the field that you can look at, including a pre-apprenticeship CTE program that we're really excited about that embraces the national guideline standards. So the National Guideline Standards for Apprenticeships for Educator Apprenticeships came out in August of 2023, and we're really driven by an incredible working group of individuals who came together to really follow up on the First Lady's call for the expansion of registered apprenticeship programs. The NGS outlines 10 competencies for K-12 teaching apprenticeships based on the evidence of skills that educators need to excel in today's classrooms. These are nationally recognized, industry-accepted standards that have been used to develop this competency framework. And so as you're thinking about what competency framework could you reference as part of your application, please look at the NGS as a model for that competency framework. There are also guidelines to fit local needs. So one set of guidelines in the NGS is for those that have collective bargaining agreements and those in non-collective bargaining environments. We're really excited that there's the ability to accommodate diverse state licensure requirements while also making sure that there are maintaining the essential elements to ensure quality program design based on evidence-based research. The national guideline standards also contain on-the-job learning and related instruction and how they should be working to actually create mutually reinforcing themes. There's also wage parameters contained within the national guideline standards. So the baseline is really a pay rate that is based on a starting teacher's salary, which is at least equivalent to the pay rate of a paraprofessional. Also, one pay increase must occur during the apprenticeship, typically after a short probationary period. This is in line with the progressive wage schedule requirement for RAPs that we talked about earlier. There are also other essential elements within the national guideline standards to ensure that we are deploying quality apprenticeships in line with those good job principles, as well as with the Department of Labor guidance. So these include at least 1 year of K-12 school year of a paid on-the-job learning experience under the supervision of a journey worker who is a teacher of record. A journey worker to apprentice ratio of no more than 1 to 2. Completion of a bachelor's degree either before entering or as a result of the apprenticeship. Satisfaction of all requirements for full state teacher licensure or certification, excluding emergency, temporary, provisional, or other substandard licensure or certification. Demonstration of competencies described in the work process schedule as determined by the journey worker in collaboration with a supervising faculty member. Progressively increasing levels of responsibility and autonomy during the on-the-job learning, and making sure that at no time the apprentice serves as the teacher of record. And then satisfactory completion of all related instruction required by an educator preparation program. I'm going to pause here as we talk about, this ends the portion that we're going to talk about the labor opportunity, but I do want to turn it back to my colleagues at the U.S. Department of Education to talk about 2 additional grant opportunities that are open and available now related to educator pathways.
Thanks so much, Erin. I really appreciate that. So want to highlight 2 things. First, the department had issued the notice inviting applications for our National Professional Development Competitive Grant Program. That's within Title III of ESEA. That opportunity is really to prepare bilingual, multilingual teachers through Grow Your Own funds. $8.4 million is available. The grant term is 60 months. Our eligible entities are IHEs, public or private entities with relevant experience and capacity in consortia with LEAs and SEAs. So the deadline for that is April 11th. Or for your notice of intent to apply, and the deadline for transmittal is May 13th. Expanding, creating opportunities for every student to become multilingual is a huge priority for us, both in terms of better serving our English learning students, as well as recognizing that in the global economy, it's really critical that we have a population that is better able to speak in multiple languages, and we know all the benefits of that. So as part of that work, we're really focused on increasing the number of multilingual, bilingual certified teachers, and this is part of that key departmental priority. We've asked for more funding for it in our FY25 budget proposal. I'm happy to share as well. There's one additional grant opportunity for National Technical Assistance Center to diversify the workforce. This is the Serving Children with Disabilities Center. This is coming from our IDA Part D Personnel Prep Program to establish and operate a National Technical Assistance Center to diversify the workforce serving children with disabilities. It supports HBCUs, TCCUs, and other MSIs that offer high-quality degree or certification programs in early intervention, early childhood special education, or related services. And that deadline for transmittal is May 15th, and the application just opened. So encourage you to look at that as well. And please keep your eyes open for TQP coming down in the future as well, our Teacher Quality Partnerships Grant Program.
So much great work happening between the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Department of Education, and making sure that the field is supported to continue to grow these pathways for educators. I also want to name a couple resources as you're thinking about how you would bring in industry trends or workforce knowledge potentially into any of these applications. Our Pathways Alliance has just published a great resource from our colleagues over at Learning Policy Institute. It's a brief around how states can support teacher apprenticeships. There's some incredible data in there, some model case studies, and really a great introduction, highly digestible, around how states can be supporting this work and how states can support teacher apprenticeship. It highlights the work of Tennessee and the work that they've done to really bolster educator apprenticeships. Just release. And then also welcome for folks to look at any of the Pathways Alliance resources. The apprenticeship models piece, I know we had a question in the chat earlier about how to build buy-in in states and districts for apprenticeship models versus maybe other types of pathways versus professional development versus other types of things that you can support an educator workforce. I don't think it's a versus, I think it's an and. But apprenticeship models, there's a little bit there about why these models are really ripe for educator workforce development, and in particular, how we think about DEIA in these models. A compendium of apprenticeship programs just added to this as more apprenticeship programs are starting across the United States, and the significant growth that we've seen through the support from the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Department of Education, and folks really embracing these models. In there, you'll also see a really exciting pre-apprenticeship model from Ball State and their partners with high school students into educator pathways. So really thrilled to be able to feature that diversity of preparation models, which includes a CTE link. So exciting reading there if you want to look at model programs. why using the national guideline standards is a great resource as to really thinking through why the national guideline standards matter. And then again, the national guideline standards themselves. So you can use those as really a template in thinking through the design of your RAP. With that, and you can grab those resources at the Pathways Alliance website. With that, I think we are going to get to some questions. First, yes, as a follow-up, I'm going to take this one because it's super easy. All the slides and the webinar recording will be shared, as well as some links. You will probably get it after today's webinar, probably tomorrow, once we have processed the recording and are able to get all those links that we mentioned, but it will go to anyone who is registered for this. So if you were here or you registered and are watching this webinar post-fact, you will get the recording, which will include the slide deck. So folks will be able to have access to that as well. We have a question around eligible applicants. We would direct any questions about why someone is an eligible applicant or isn't an eligible applicant over to our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor. And so please direct your questions around eligible applicants there. And then a last question around does what we're learning today, teachers also apply to principal apprenticeships? And so I will pass that over to Mo. Mo.
Yes. So if you look at the DOL materials, they specifically list K-12 teacher occupations as a prioritized sector for this, along with a few other sectors. I'm happy to put the full list in the chat.
And then another question around is industry or small businesses permitted to collaborate with higher ed teacher prep programs? Again, we would refer your questions around eligible applicants to our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor, should you have questions about that, and what the structure is for eligible applications that engage small business or the private sector.
I will note that they have listed broadly public sector in their list of occupations. So whether or not principals are relevant to what they're specifically speaking to there, I would refer you to the Department of Labor.
Remember that you have more you can watch. There is a great webinar from our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor. So think of us as part one, and that webinar is being part two of your RAP apprenticeship opportunity learning. So we're really excited to continue to collaborate with them. We're going to go last call. So one question is who to contact at the Department of Labor. In our show notes and follow-up, we're going to give you the exact email address of the program officer for the ABA2 contact for the ABA2 opportunity. There is a specific person with a specific email, and we will make sure that you have that. They are also on a rolling basis publishing FAQs. So when you go to that link that we're going to share for the webinar and for the opportunity, you'll also see some of the FAQs that are being published there. There is still time to put this application together. There are great resources that have been shared today from our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Education in terms of resources that they already have available. There are some great resources from the U.S. Department of Labor. There are some great resources from the Pathways Alliance. We hope that this webinar has been helpful for you in thinking about this opportunity. We certainly at the Pathways Alliance, I won't speak on behalf of our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Education, but at the Pathways Alliance, we would love to see many of you apply for this incredible opportunity for resources to expand quality educator pathways within in the nation. So please, please, please take advantage of this opportunity, as well as the other funding opportunities that have been shared. Mo?
I feel very comfortable saying the Department of Labor also would love to see many, many high quality applications for these resources. though we are not involved with the evaluation of said applications in any way, shape, or form. We're excited about these opportunities and know that there are so many worthy organizations that have been really building and are ready to take advantage of this opportunity.
Great. Well, as many of you who know me have heard me talk before, I taught middle school science. So you'll know that what I learned as a middle school teacher is that if you can let the kids out 1 minute early from class or get to recess 1 minute early, you're always the favorite teacher. So with that, I'm going to give you back 3 minutes of your time today. And thank you so much for your attendance. Goodbye.